Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. The NBA Draft Lottery is just a couple of hours away, Tone. What's your key to getting lucky?
I'm Tony Kornheiser, using Reality's picture on my Tinder account.
That would help. I think that would help you, unless you're looking to use a Tinder account on some, senior honeys.
I am always looking to use it on senior honey. Always.
Okay, I don't mean senior in college. I mean senior.
I understand, but they would be flattered if Reality showed up, don't you think?
I guess.
Flattered by that? Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Spurs blow out the Thunder. An 11-year-old makes the U.S. Open, and Bud Grant is holding a garage sale. But we begin today with the NBA Draft Lottery, which will be conducted in a couple of hours. Before this college basketball season began, we were promised wholesale tanking because this would be the deepest draft in years, stocked with amazing one-and-dones. Wilbon, all the big ones are in the draft. Is this lottery a league-altering event?
Tony, I don't know about league-altering event. It's a landscape-changing event, in my opinion, in the NBA. I mean, the beauty of the draft is you may be able to get as good a player at 8 or 9 in this draft as you get at 1. It's a very deep draft. I think everybody agrees and certainly projects that way. Look, there are players, whether you're talking about Joel Embiid or Jabari Parker, Wiggins at the top of the draft, but then a guy like McDermott, who we got used to seeing for multiple years, they're talking about him not being in the top 10, talking about Shabazz Napier, the national championship hero, not being in the top 20. So you can go the whole first round and see players that you recognize from college drafted.
Yeah, I think it could be league-altering if one of two things happens. One, if the Lakers get the #1 pick, because they are the most glamorous team in basketball. That will create a great buzz about basketball. And everybody knows, if they know the Lakers, they know they have the ability to come back quickly. So that would be a really big deal. And the second thing is if Kevin Love gets traded for one of these #1 picks, especially, Mike, if there's some sort of three-way deal where he ends up on a contender. Those two things would make it league-altering. But I look up and down. You mentioned Embiid. He's damaged goods. You mentioned Parker. He can't play defense. They subbed him out against Mercer. You mentioned Wiggins. He scored 4 points in his final game. So to me,
they played 1 year.
There's nobody in this draft, Mike, as good as Anthony Davis was when he came out a couple of years ago, and he hasn't been to the playoffs yet.
No, Tony, that's true, and that's why there are people, Adam Silver being one of them, who say, you know what, you need 2 years of apprenticeship before you come in here. And then the lottery and the draft is not going to get back to where it was when Patrick Ewing, left New York and people thought the whole thing left Georgetown, people thought it was fixed. But I think this is still a legit big event tonight. I think there are players that people will see, players that had time enough in college to be marketed, and I think the general public is going to look at it differently than they did.
They got a guy from Australia that nobody has ever seen.
But Tony, 25 drafts ago, there were people nobody had seen. The point is there are 15 to 20 people you have seen, and I think folks are going to be excited about it.
Inexact science. Inexact.
Which is so funny, you don't take that tact on the NFL.
Yes, inexact science, inexact.
I didn't hear that 2 weeks ago.
These same words apply to 2 drafts. Inexact science.
I didn't hear it. I hear it tonight.
Well, please.
Rarely does a game in any playoff series go exactly the way so many people scripted it. But that's exactly what happened last night in San Antonio. The prevailing wisdom was the Spurs would pound OKC inside and make the Thunder pay for the absence of Serge Ibaka, and that is what happened. Tony, is there any way OKC can counter what happened last night, or the Thunder just done without Ibaka?
Game 1 really looked like the series was going to be a rout, and it looks particularly true. 66 points in the paint for San Antonio, 122 overall. I've got to think that if Ibaka was playing, he would have made some protections around the rim. I may very well have been wrong when I said yesterday that I didn't think it would be that big a deal, because it looks like that big a deal. Now, game 1 out of 7, Scott Brooks can come around, he can turn something around, you can see what happens, but it looked like this was going to be a rout, didn't it? Looked that way.
Well, Tony, but really, it was sort of deceiving. I mean, Oklahoma City had come back to take a 1-point lead late in the third quarter, and yes,
but San Antonio.
But San Antonio pulled away. That was at the end. That was a flurry at the end of the round, if you will. So I'm not so sure that the final score should be looked at. But look, I thought Ibaka is too good a player defensively, Tony, even if you discount his offense, and I won't want to do that because his jump shooting, particularly against San Antonio, gives them problems. But defensively, and Parker didn't even go crazy. He had a lot of assists. I mean, after he had 14 and 12, Parker didn't go crazy inside. He's capable of that in the lane. But Oklahoma City, Tony's going to have to go big. They're going to have to do what Miami did and put a bigger lineup out there and get production from those big people. You can't go small against San Antonio.
You can talk about all the strategy that you want. But if your other three starters, other than Durant and Westbrook, whether they're big or they're small or they're giraffes, if they give you 5 points in 55 minutes, you know, Collison, Perkins, Cephalo, you can't win because Durant and Westbrook can't score 100.
Yesterday, and I may get reality to get the tape.
No, I did.
You told me the others didn't matter. You said on this quality program that the two guys matter.
I said
you can't have it both ways.
two guys play the piano and the others carry it.
Yeah.
But if you carry it and drop it on your own feet and you don't score at all, the two guys can't win.
This is what they do. This is how OKC rolls. It's going to be 1-1. Both these series are going to be 1-1.
At the NFL meetings today, the owners tabled the proposal to add 2 more wild card teams to the playoffs until the fall meetings. John Marin, owner of the Giants, said there were enough votes to pass the measure, but no vote was taken. So, Wilbon, is this expansion of the playoffs still as inevitable as we all assumed?
Well, I don't presume it's inevitable. It's like presuming that Steve Kerr is going to be the coach of the Knicks. Some of these presumptions are stupid. It's like presuming there's going to be a 18-game season. We had that a couple of years ago, too. It's just a matter of time. They're going to announce the 18-game season. And they don't announce it. They don't have it. Now, it seems like there's still a movement afoot to have an extra playoff game. We're talking about a ton of revenue. You got multiple cities out there that would be interested because their team would be in it. You know, an extra week. Jerry Jones could stop sobbing about his sorry no account Cowboys missing the postseason. But I don't presume. The NFL playoffs are perfect as they are. They'll make more money with another game, but they're perfect as is.
Yeah, no, they're fine the way they are. They also have, I think, 12 teams out of 32 in right now, which is the lowest ratio of any league. If you are to be able to defend the NHL and the NBA for having 16 out of 30
you can't.
and playing endless 7-game series, and it's easy to add 2 more teams to the NFL. There was some talk that they wanted there to be a rollout of these Thursday night games on CBS, and they wanted to wait. I believe this is inevitable. I don't think going to 18 games is inevitable, but I think this is inevitable because people want it. Honestly, I'm a little bit surprised they pushed it back. I mean, I don't see a downside. I don't.
Tony, I do see a downside. You know, the NFL used to sell less is more. Less is better. We don't need to copy the other leagues and their bloated playoffs. And now what you're saying is the NFL should follow the other leagues and add more playoff games because bloated playoffs are better?
No,
that's the logic here?
Not bloated. I think
they are bloated. The NHL and NBA are bloated.
I'll wait for you to be done. I think that baseball added teams in that 1-game playoff, and it energized the sport. I don't think there's any downside in adding 2 more teams in a wild card circumstance. I think if you go to playoffs that last 7 months, yes, there's a downside.
All right. Tony, the pitchers of the New York Mets, the team of your youth, are terrible. And we're not talking about pitching, we're talking about hitting. Mets pitchers are hitting .014 this season, which has caused baseball folk to wonder if it's time to adopt the DH in the National League, too. Even John Smoltz tells the New York Times that with interleague play taking place every day, it would be easier on everybody if both leagues had the same rules. Tom, when you add in the specialization at that position, isn't it time to just get rid of these feeble-hitting pitchers at the plate?
You know, I don't want to say that. I think you probably feel the same way that I do, that you just have the pitchers hit, that these pitchers, when they're in high school, they're the best athletes on the team. They hit 400 every year, and the only thing that stops them from being good hitters in Major League Baseball is they probably don't get batting practice. I think they should hit on their days off instead of playing golf or something like that. I will tell you, you can now convince me to go the other way, but I'd like to be resistant as long as possible. I would.
Yeah, I'm exactly with you on this, Tony. I mean, you and I grew up and played a lot of baseball, and we know that the best hitters across America were also the pitchers.
Yeah.
They were the best athletes. That's how it worked. They were also the quarterback. When you went to the fall season, they played everything. They were good. They were the point guard. And so don't tell me these guys can't do this. But, Tony, what's interesting to me, you read this piece in the New York Times, other pieces, and they talk about how little pitchers hit. Well, why not? They got 4 days to hit. Don't tell me that's going to result in more Tommy John surgery. Get them out there and make them hit.
We are agreed on this, but there is a practicality here. Because A, they don't hit. And B, in the American League, they don't hit at all. And in the National League, relievers never hit because they're always pinch hit for. So maybe a starter gets 2 or 3 at bats. And I'm being dragged, kicking and screaming to the point where I'm going to say, you know what? Then just make it DHs.
I get it.
Just make it DHs and the game will be better. I don't want to say it, but statistical evidence is forcing me to that position. It is.
Being dragged, kicking and screaming. Remember my hero, Ferguson Jenkins, hit 9 home runs one year for the Cubs. Now a pitcher hitting a home run, you'd faint dead away.
11-year-old Lucy Lee of California has qualified for the U.S. Women's Open. Lee, seen here in the drive, putt, and chip championships at Augusta in April, shot 74 and, get this, 68 on the par 72 Half Moon Bay course near San Francisco. She was 7 shots clear of the next qualifier. Lee will play at Pinehurst next month as the youngest Open qualifier ever, man or woman. Wilbon, how do you feel about this?
Tone, I'm okay in a one-off situation. I'm okay with saying, you know, you're being rewarded with this thing. This is an exception. This is just a prize that you're going to remember for the rest of your life, whether you play great, whether you stink, no matter what happens, go out there and have fun. You know what I'm against. I'm against what happened with Michelle Wee.
That's right.
When her father and other men were out there saying, oh, yeah, let's get her on tour every week or in all these events. No, I don't want this kid to be in any more events.
I'm agape at this. I mean, I'm a bad player, but she's 11. She's in 6th grade. She only hits the ball 200 yards, which means she must be the best chipper and putter in Western civilization.
Ever.
Because how else is she going to get to the hole? I cannot bring myself to believe this. I don't think she'll be scarred by it. She's too young to be scarred by it. If you're 16, you could be scarred by it. If you try to turn pro like Ty Tryon, you could be scarred by it. I think she'll have a really good time. But I can't believe it, Mike. 68?
No, Tony, it's unfathomable. But, you know, what's interesting, now I want to see her. How does she get around the golf course hitting it 180 yards off the tee?
She's 11. She's in 6th
That's ahead of Tiger. That's ahead of Tiger Woods.
And Jack
Nicklaus. Physically, she's not going to wind up being 6'2", 185 pounds, but still.
Take a break. Coming up, why does Roy Hibbert own the Heat?
And later, could a star player from Man City really leave because his team didn't celebrate his birthday with enough gusto?
This is a 6,200-yard course. That's what we play. She shot 68. She's 11.
These days, you can get practically anything on demand, like this podcast. Did you know you can even get postage on demand? You can with Stamps.com. No more going to the post office. No more waiting in line. Just go to Stamps.com and print all the postage you want, anytime you want. Anything you can do at the post office, you can do right from your desk with Stamps.com. Buy and print official U.S. postage for any letter or package using your own computer and printer. And, unlike the post office, Stamps.com never closes, so you can get postage whenever you need it. Right now, get this special offer from Stamps.com when you use promo code PTI, a no-risk trial, plus a $110 bonus offer that includes a digital scale and up to $55 free postage. Don't wait. Go to Stamps.com and, before you do anything else, click on the microphone at the top of the home page and type in PTI. That's Stamps.com, promo code PTI.
The two-time defending champion Miami Heat tries to even up its series with the Pacers tonight in Naptown, where we find PTI special round ball correspondent Brian Windhorst. Brian, we begin with this. Why does Roy Hibbert seem all-powerful against the Heat?
Man, he does, doesn't he? You know, my colleague at ESPN.com, Tom Haberstroh, did a piece today where he looked at Roy Hibbert's numbers. And when Roy Hibbert plays against the Heat, he's better than Dwight Howard is against the rest of the league. And when he plays against everybody else, he's just average. Part of it is I really think that Hibbert has gotten into the Heat's head a little bit. When he's in the game, they do not challenge the rim as much. It's something that has been bothering them on and off for the last several years. The numbers back it up, but you just watch it and you look at them. When they play with Hibbert out there, they worry about him. They don't worry about anybody else offensively in the game the way they do. And it's really surprising that after all this time, and even after they've had success against the Pacers, that they have not been able to solve this big guy.
Yeah, opponents shooting only 41% against Hibbert this year. He led the league in that category. Brian, Eric Spoelstra seems so irritated by his team's defense in Game 1. I would blame some of it on him for having LeBron James on David West instead of Paul George, and I'd blame him for not going bigger. He's the one who made those decisions. Is Spoelstra going to change and adjust to that tonight?
Yeah, you will not see LeBron James on David West tonight unless it's a critical late game move or if it's like a switch in the middle of the game. Eric Spoelstra made an error, and it wasn't just a strategy error. It was a personality error. He needs to know that by now, when LeBron James goes into a game where he's assigned to guard a big man, he's not the same. It bothers him. I know that we all make a big deal about how he can defend every position, and you hear Eric Spoelstra talk about LeBron being a 1 through 5, and they sell that on their MVP pitch. LeBron does not like to guard big men. It gets him down. It frustrates him. He doesn't consider himself a big man. He doesn't like to play in the post offensively sometimes. He never likes to guard in the post defensively. So I think it took him out of his game. He went into that game pouting a little bit, figuratively to that game plan. He didn't come out aggressive. His teammates followed his lead, and the Heat were a step slow defensively the entire game. And one thing about the Pacers, normally the first quarter you can do some experimentation, not against Indiana. When Indiana gets off to a good start, they're a completely different team. Eric Spoelstra has done a lot of things right over the last 2 years. That decision to put LeBron on West to start the series was not one of them.
The Pacers had a huge free throw advantage over the Heat in Game 1. What sort of a game do you expect Joey Crawford to call tonight?
Well, I think the Heat are going to come out looking to be extremely physical offensively. They know that there was a big free throw disparity. They know that that was noticed. They made little tentative references to it over the last couple of days. I think LeBron and Wade come out and try to get to the line, force the action early on. That was their game plan last year. They came into this building last year 1-1 in this series, and they barely won Game 1. And we thought the Pacers might have the upper hand on them. LeBron and Wade were vicious going to the basket and forcing contact in Game 3. Blew the Pacers off the court in that series, or in that game last year. I think they have the exact same game plan. They dust that off, try the same thing, put the pressure on Joey Crawford and the other officials to call the fouls. I think that's one of the most important things they could do tonight to start the game.
In recent years, the Heat has lost Game 1 a couple of times to the Bulls and the Thunder. They've still won in 5 games. But what happens? Is there cause for concern if indeed Indiana goes 2-0 on them?
I'm going to go so far as to say that this is the most important game that's been played yet in the postseason in the whole NBA. Because if the Heat win this game, it's 1-1. They're going home. They have the home court advantage. No problem. They've recovered and won again for the 11th straight time. They know that they can still beat the Pacers when they have to, like they have for the last 2 years. The Pacers win and the Heat go down 0-2. They've never been down 0-2 in any series. They've never been down 3-1 in any series in the last 4 years. Then we've got 72 hours, 3 days between now and Game 3, where we're going to break them down. You're going to be talking about it the next day and the next day and the next day. The Heat hatred and the Heat panic is going to descend on them again. This game goes one way, it looks like the Heat are just fine. It goes the other, all of a sudden they're in big trouble. I think this is a huge game, as big of a game, too, as you could see at this stage of the postseason, just because of the ramifications of these two teams.
Thank you so much, as always, for joining us, Brian.
Appreciate it. See you soon.
Enjoy the game. Time for a break. But when we come back, Mike Trout is batting just 161 this month. What is wrong with the god of stats?
And is PK Subban right that Henrik Lundqvist is getting lucky?
I wouldn't
Getting
think
lucky
so.
Where? At a bar? Because he's not getting lucky on the ice. The guy's been great. What are you talking about?
Don't you make your own luck? Isn't he a great goalie?
He's been terrific, Tom. Lights out Lundqvist should be his nickname for this postseason.
Happy time, people. Happy 87th birthday, Bud Grant. Here's how the Hall of Fame coach of the Vikings is celebrating, with a garage sale. It starts tomorrow at 5 p.m. and runs through Friday. Grant announced it through an ad in the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. Wilbon, how great is this?
You know, it is great, Tony, a garage sale. But you know what the temperature was right there when Bud walked out in a golf shirt? I was at that game. It was like 13 degrees. It's insane. He's in a golf shirt.
Pretty tough guy. He's 87.
He's tough, the toughest guy.
Happy anniversary, Michael Barrett. On this day, 8 years ago, the Cubs catcher punched then White Sox catcher A.J. Przinsky in the face. Wilbon, isn't this what almost everybody in baseball has wanted to do to Przinsky? But how did you feel about your two teams getting into that brawl?
Yeah, you know, I didn't like seeing that because I'm a Cub guy, but I like Przinsky, Tony. But that's what these interleague games, early they had some ferocity to them. I don't think they have that anymore.
Happy trails, Yaya Toure. The Man City midfielder is reportedly considering leaving the club because not enough fuss was made about his birthday. The team wished him happy birthday on Twitter, gave him a cake, and sang to him on the team plane, but apparently that was not good enough. Toure's agent is steamed that nobody from management shook Toure's hand. What is that?
Sounds like he ought to be a wideout on an NFL team, Tony.
It does.
Those kind of diva tendencies, but he's too good. They got to placate him. He's too good a player. He's a great player.
Because everybody didn't shake his hand on his... Get out of here.
Unbelievable.
Trying to find out what we messed up, Reality.
$18 million a year is what he makes. Tony, you had the NFL with the smallest percentage of playoff teams. 12 of 32 is greater than 10 of 30 in baseball.
Good catch.
Wilbon, Fergie Jenkins' career-high home runs, six in a season, 13 for his career. Mike Hampton hit 7 about 13 years ago. NFL owners vote today. Super Bowl 52, 2018, Minneapolis over Indianapolis and over New Orleans. And look at that stadium. That's the drawing right there. That's a glass roof. The sun can shine through it.
I went to it in '92, the bandwagon year.
Me too. Minneapolis.
Big finish. Here we go quickly. PK Subban says Rangers goalie Henrik Lundqvist is getting lucky against his Canadiens. Do you agree?
Yeah, he's going to luck his way into a 4-0 sweep with this series moving to Madison Square Garden. The Rams say they hope they don't get picked for HBO's Hard Knocks. Is that understandable?
Then pull out. Say we're not going to do it.
Exactly.
It's easy. Say that. Johnny Manziel says it's a bad idea to name the revamped Texas A&M Stadium after him because it's a team game. Your thoughts?
I'm not going to argue with him. Of course, he's got the right position on this. Mike Trout hitting 161 this month. Concerned?
Only if it goes into next month and the month after that. Last one, Masahiro Tanaka looks to go 7-0 tonight as he faces your Cubs. You think he'll get there?
Yeah, Tony, because already in his third start in the majors, he shut us down, embarrassed us. Probably so.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
And I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. Check out the PTI podcast on iTunes.
Good night, Canada.
PTI. What makes the Indy 500 the greatest spectacle in racing?
Michael Morgan.
We are green. Everyone in the grandstands are on their feet. You're now the winner of the Indianapolis 500, my friend.
The Indianapolis 500, Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on ABC.